Welcome to episode 305 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I have Kelly Guimont back on the show. How are you doing, Kelly?
Not bad, Dave. I'm always excited to be here. I'm glad I got to come back.
Yes, I'm always excited to have you here, and always excited to have both the rest of my regular panelists. Ben Roethig is here. How are you doing, Ben?
I am great. I think something happened this week, didn't it, Dave?
It did?
Well, are you okay?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the Cubs pulled out of it.
Yeah,
Not going
sports. Okay, Jeff Hammond, you can go there. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. And the places that I go when people make sports references that, or at least I assume are sports references, and anyhow, this is why there's a chair in the HR offices that has a little brass plaque with my name on it.
Well, I think there's something we can talk about this week. Oh, yeah, the Let Loose event. Apple did announce some wonderful new iPads. We're going to spend some good amount of time on that this week because there was a lot to talk about, but it was a nice, short and sweet event. The event was only about 38 minutes long, which we're so used to having these hour and a half events. I was like kind of surprised, but actually it was good because I had more time to talk about things. And so we're going to pretty much hit upon most of that tonight and maybe hit a few news stories. But as we always do, we start with beta. In beta this week, Apple did release the release candidate of 17.5 for beta. It's just in time for the new iPads. And we were probably going to expect that final version probably to be released just before May 15th, which is the first ship date for the new iPads, which we'll talk about in a minute. Nothing I can really see that is any different than what we've been talking about the last few weeks. Ben, you've been running on your iPhone. Has anything come out since the last discussions we've had?
Absolutely no differences that I can tell. Other than that, it's the release candidate.
Yep, which is good. So, like I said, I'm going to anticipate it comes out next week as we record. The one big thing I thought that stood out was the new repair state option that lets you put your iPhone into a repair state without having to deactivate the Find My or the activation lock because they were contending with a lot of difficulty. We talked about that. They may have some different alternate changes as far as on the iPad with battery health for the future iPads or new iPads, and as well as we know there is a new Apple Pencil. This article obviously was written just before the announcement. So, and also the support for third-party item tracker alerts. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some good things, and then we'll also probably find some even more cool things when the iPad Air and the iPad Pro come out. So. And that's about it with beta. Let's just go right into it. The event was, like I said, it was 35 minutes long here this week, and we definitely saw lots of great things. I think notably was the iPad Pro, and the fact of the matter is that they did announce an M4 chip with an OLED display, and we're going to talk about the M4 chip, which was really surprisingly, it was a surprise. They also had the iPad Air that came out, that is coming out next week, as well as a whole new revised Magic Keyboard for both the Air and the Pro, as well as the Apple Pencil Pro. And this was some pretty exciting things that were announced here. So let's start a little bit about the iPad Air. The Air is going to be a M2 processor, which is quite a bump from the A17 it was before. You're going to have now landscape camera on it, which is a 12 megapixel front camera. You do have the enhanced 5G for the cellular version, much brighter screen. You have Touch ID instead of Face ID, so a lot of folks are probably a little about that. You're going to be now updated to Wi-Fi 6E. You do have a landscape stereo audio on it. Again, I mentioned the Magic Keyboard. We have four different colors, up to a terabyte option. So they did get some really cool things with space. Now you're starting at 128 all the way up to 1 terabyte on the Air, which is as well as the Pro will go up to 2 terabyte, you have an 11-inch, which that's the only one they offered. Now we have a 13-inch size screen, which I think is going to be a really great sweet spot when it comes to that. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. What was your thoughts on the Air, and as far as what their announcements were on this?
When Apple started going through all the features, I kept thinking, man, this looks super familiar. And at some point, I posted on Mastodon that the new iPad Air is basically what the iPad Pro was. So we're getting essentially now last week's iPad Pro at a better price. I mean, there's a couple other differences, but that's basically it. I think this was a super awesome move for consumers because
for sure.
Now you can get a pro level iPad at a lower price point, and you don't even have to sacrifice which Apple Pencil you want to use.
That's true, because now you can use the Apple the Apple Pencil, the second gen, and also the Apple Pencil Pro, which we're going to hit on not too long here. So, how about you, Kelly? What was your first impressions of when they talked about the Air?
Honestly, once we got to the end of the Air announcement, I feel like Apple has kind of negated all of the connotation that we used to have about a product that had Air in its name. Because initially, many, many years ago, when Jeff and I still went to conferences and hung out in person,
the good old days.
Yeah. Uncle Steve would bring down the stone tablets from the mount, And one time it was an iPad Air a MacBook Air, pulled it out of a manila envelope. It was your satellite computer before phones were super prominent and powerful, before laptops had really great battery life and all that kind of stuff. Like if you had, maybe you had some sort of desktop situation at home, but you want to go to a conference, you want to do stuff out and about during the day, you have a job where you're super mobile, you want to do something with like a computer that maybe isn't necessarily your daily driver, but will get the job done. It gives you a full keyboard, a reasonable size screen. It was 11-inch and 13-inch computers. That's all they were. They were not the most powerful. You couldn't even buy one with, a super duper amount of RAM or anything like that. And the whole point of it was to sort of be this ancillary computing device. And that's not what an Air, anything from Apple with Air in the title is anymore. We have a 15-inch MacBook Air. Now we have a 13-inch iPad Air. And the whole point of Air was maybe it's not the most powerful thing of, version of that product that you can buy, which is fine. Not everybody needs the most powerful version. And for people who don't, then it's a great option. It's a little bit less, because it's not the most powerful, it's a little bit more budget friendly to buy something like that. And, over time, those have gotten more powerful. And so, a MacBook Air, for example, a 13-inch, is a very, very reasonable machine for a whole lot of people. Just like until Tuesday, the iPad Air was a very reasonable machine for a lot of people at a reasonable price. And now all of the meaning of that has sort of gone away, and it's becoming something where it's kind of like, is it the thing that you want? Is it not? Like, why? Like, honestly, and I'm not saying this because I think it's because I think it's an odd decision. Why is there a 13-inch iPad Air? Why? Because I also said when they came out with the 15-inch MacBook Air, why is there one? Why don't you just make a 15-inch machine if that's what you're trying to do? And it doesn't need to be an Air. And for people where it's the right decision, it's the right decision. And like all of the things that made the Air an advantage, choosing the Air over something else, all of those clear advantages are sort of gone now. And so I'm mostly curious about what it was that led to the great big versions of these and making them something that is basically just another, it's an iPad, it's just an iPad, or it's just, just a MacBook, instead of being the Air or the Pro, like, maybe it doesn't need to have any kind of name at all. So that was the part I was sort of wondering about.
Yeah. I'll get back to you when you want to talk a little bit about Touch ID, but I want to get Ben's thoughts first on the Air before we go to that.
I was listening to Upgrade this afternoon before coming on the program, and Jason Snell got something out of some unnamed Apple employees that I found very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. What the iPad Air in 2024 is essentially last time's iPad Pro. This is the machine that iPad Pro technology goes slightly down market and more affordable. If you don't want to spend the buku bucks on the Pro, well, you can get most of that on the Air right now. Yes, it's not the thinnest or lightest iPad. In fact, actually, might be the heaviest right now. But you have the compatibility with the newest pencil. You have not the best screens, but basically the same sizes as the Pro. If you need to carry if you have a MacBook and you need an iPad functionality plus a second screen, well, there you go. The 13-inch really ups that game.
Yeah.
So it's a solid mid-range machine for those who want more than the $349 or newly $349 iPad 10, but I don't want to pay as much as a MacBook.
Yeah. So
that's not the first time this has happened too, right? Like where the Air kind of we get a new iPad Pro, maybe we get a new iPad, and then a while later, here comes the Air, and now the Air is better than the others, even though it's the Air. Like this is the second or third time I can think of where the spec bump made the Air the one that had sort of the most interesting specs, going forward. Like it's way better than the one that has Pro in the name.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. For generations 4 through now 6, we know what the Air is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick. I promise to be fast. Here's the problem that we all have with Air in the product names. We remember what it originally was. This is the lightweight
MacBook Air.
Yeah, like the MacBook Air.
Entry.
That's not what it is
entry
for
level.
Apple.
Yeah.
I mean, when it came out, that's what it was. But now it's brand recognition.
Yeah.
And the Air line is incredibly popular. So instead of making the Air the smallest, the lightest, whatever, it's what is going to probably be the most popular in the lineup that's not actually the Pro. That's what you get in the Air line.
Yeah, and if you'll remember, Apple tried to get rid of the Air name in both the MacBook and iPad names, but it just had so much name recognition that it stuck. It was basically reintroduced.
They should have just picked a different word. That's really all I wanted.
Yeah.
Plus.
The
iPad Plus.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
I like the Air name. I mean, but I also we've been saying it since the Air was introduced. That the Air is just an amazing value. It really is. I mean, and it still continues that 13-inch iPad for $799. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, and you're starting at $599 with the 11-inch. So, but I know, Kelly, you had points you wanted to make on Touch ID, and I tend to agree with you with this, even without you saying it, because I mean, Face ID is just the way to go. Really, I don't understand why Apple didn't decide to put Touch ID on it. So, I mean,
that's not what I'm going to say at all.
No, okay.
Multiple
then I was wrong.
users.
Go ahead.
Well, multiple users. If you have this machine and you need to share it with another person, if it's education, if it's enterprise, if it's the household iPad, setting up more than one Face ID on the same thing for people with totally different faces is a giant pain. And then it doesn't really work reliably for either person. That's what I have found. If you can get it to work, that alternate appearance or whatever it is it says that you can do for a second face, most of the time, as soon as you do that, then it kind of if it was super reliable before with one person, once you add the second person, it's more often than not, but still doesn't work a lot for both people. And so Touch ID for somebody who shares an iPad with another person, whether it's a personal or a professional situation, Touch ID is super important. And I also really like that it's the button. It's the tiny little sensor that they found a way to make that tiny little button on it, the Touch ID button. I have family that got the previous iPad that has the Touch ID built into the button. And the two people who need to use it, because they share it between them, were both it was very straightforward. I walked them through getting it set up. They set it up and it works flawlessly for both of them. And it's super great. And so I'm really glad it didn't completely go away, because both for people in my family and for people I support at work during the day in IT, there are many, many situations where an iPad with Touch ID is the only sensible option. That if it was all Face ID all the time, then we would have to find a different solution, because the iPad would not be the right tool for the job anymore. So I'm glad it stuck around.
No. Yeah.
I'm probably the one person
I guess
in the wilderness going, but Touch ID is great in some cases. And I feel like the only one, but like Face ID is so much better. It's super reliable. If you're the only person who ever needs to do it on that device until the heat death of the universe, then it's fantastic. But the minute you add another person to the mix, however that comes about, you're going to have a bad time. And there's no getting around that, because there is no multi-user functionality on these devices. So it doesn't do the job.
Okay. So let's go ahead. We're going to move on from the Air. Again, the pricing is $599 for, it starts at $599 for the 11-inch and $799 for the 13-inch. It's an M2 processor. And we talked about, it's got the Touch ID, has a 12 megapixel wide camera with 4K video, which is, pretty substantial for iPad of that value. Everything's got a USB-C connector. And so they did a lot of good upgrades to it. Again, space is 128 all the way up to 1 terabyte on the Air, which is great. So no more of the 64 gig sizes on these mid to high line models. Crazy some small space these days, especially the way photos are these days with storage. So the other thing I wanted to mention here was that there was another iPad, and I was extremely excited about, and that was the iPad Pro. Again, the Pro now comes in 11 and a 13-inch. Now you can get it up to 2 terabytes of storage. You have an option to the nano texture glass, M4 processor, which is pretty amazing. It's a Thunderbolt and USB 4 for fast speeds, especially for photographers being able to hook up external drives to transfer data, photos. It has the Face ID and ProRes, it's ProMotion, and you also have a brand new Magic Keyboard. You got the 5G with your Wi-Fi with the accelerator version. You can get it up to an Ultra Retina XDR, as well as they did the same thing with the camera on the front face. The camera is now landscape, and then of course there's the Apple Pencil Pro, which we'll touch upon here in just a minute here. So really, some great things with the Pro line model here. You get a 12 megapixel wide camera, so you get you're going to get a wide camera, and that's interesting that they only have the one wide lens on it. So you do have the true depth camera system, and pretty much all the same stuff that you had. We got 4 stereo quality microphones, so your recording quality is going to be pretty amazing. And it's quite a difference in what they did with this model. And I'm gonna start with you, Ben, this time. What was your first impressions on the iPad Pro?
I will start with the hardware. Between the M4 processor and the hardware design, which is, Johnny Ive would be proud of this thing. It might be the most technologically advanced design Apple has ever made. It is incredibly powerful. If you have seen the leaked benchmarks, it's just mind-boggling.
Unbelievably.
Yes, that is the word, Kelly. Unbelievably thin, yet very rigid, to the point where you're not going to be seeing Ben Gate iPad edition.
Right.
Although you could, because I bet that thing fits in somebody's back pocket and I will die mad about it. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Shaq's back pocket. It's, tandem OLED is give me a MacBook with this, please. And the brand new Magic Keyboard is just completely next level over the beginning.
Right.
There's a reason I'm buttering this up. Because why Apple's hardware and silicon teams just absolutely blew it out of the park. This is the most amazing device in the world that I don't see a use for most users for. Yes, for artists.
No.
It has, but
I have thoughts about that, but I want to hear the rest of what you want to tell me.
It's iPadOS just does not have the feature set to take use of this thing's power. It's like, I've said this before on another show. It's like sending a Corvette Z06 to do a milk run.
You took that Ferrari engine and you put it in a VW Bug, and what are you going to do with that? Like, this is the problem I have. My hope. Come, Ben, sit next to me on the couch in my house.
Of crackpot theories.
Yes. I think this is the 1-2 punch of what Apple's up to in 2024. This is my fondest hope, because if they're going to do what we've been hearing that they're going to do at WWDC, you're going to need a machine with the ability to handle all of that computing power. And this would be that machine. So what I am hoping is that, I mean, let's be honest. I have an M1 iPad Pro, and my M1 iPad Pro is basically nothing but untapped potential with the current version of iOS. And my M1 iPad Pro is not a new device. So if you're going to put an M4 in this mamma jamma, then you need to give me something to do with that processor. Don't give me the Ferrari engine and then give me a driveway and tell me to be happy that it's paved, because that's what's happening with the M1, and it's not okay. So what I'm really my wish is that we are going to get that this is a 1-2 punch, and that this is the jab, and that we're going to get the uppercut in a month when they unveil something at Dub that is going to be the thing that's going to make this announcement make sense. Because a lot of the reaction that I've seen out there has been, okay, so now there's an M4 in it, but I can't, much like mine, the M1 I have is not like it's long in the tooth. It's not creaky. There's nothing really like old and sad about it. It's not slow. It's very peppy. It's very responsive because you gave it this little itty bitty bunch of options for what all the things are that it can do. And I want to take that and crank it up and find out what I can really do with it. Just like with my laptop, which is also an M1, which is part of the reason that I find it so frustrating, because I know all the things that my computer can do, and I know how fast my computer can do them. And I want to be able to do similar things. I don't want to be able to do the same job on everything. I do not want to emulate macOS on my iPad. Do not at me. What I want is for the processor I have to be capable. And I think because I was thinking about it today, because I knew I was going to come here and talk to you all about it. And the thing that I want out of it is I want the creativity at Apple to be such that I can do all of that stuff. All of the stuff that I want to do, I can do on my iPad without having to be Federico, iPadOS gymnast Vitici, who has to go through all these gyrations and do all these backflips and vault through all these hoops. He always sticks the landing, which is amazing, and I'm so impressed. But most people aren't going to spend the time to sort out how to get through all those hoops and how to do all those things. And I don't want to have to. If I buy something with a desktop class processor in it, and I know it's a desktop class processor because I can get the exact same processor in a desktop computer, I want to be able to do things with it. And I can't do those things. And I feel like Apple should be creative enough to be able to give me the opportunity to do those things. And they did make mention of, Logic and Final Cut are gonna be super great on the new iPad. And but there's a whole world of users and use cases and possibility between the current version of iPadOS and the people who are going to use it and go edit a film in Final Cut on that sucker. Like, there are so many other things in between that could be so much better, so much nicer, so much more fun, so fast, given what we know even the M1 can do. I know what my processor is capable of, and because like I said, I have another device with that exact same processor in it. And I know what I can do with that. And I want to be able to have that kind of horsepower available to me, not just sitting there waiting, cordoned off. I want it available to me to be able to do the kind of things I want to do. And I feel like Apple should by now have been creative enough. It took them long enough to figure out the iPad needed slightly different software than what the iPhone needed. And they split it off. And every year I'm Charlie Brown and I start running the first week of June. And every year Apple pulls that football away. And I really want this year to be different.
Yep. All right,
David, I'll get down off my soapbox now.
Let's bring Jeff in here. He's been patiently waiting to give his thoughts on, because I think this is going to be his bread and butter. He's deciding what he wants here, and I want to hear your thoughts, Jeff.
All right, so I need to start with Kelly. You totally stole my Charlie Brown and Lucy analogy. If anyone was going to do it, it was you. Well played.
Thank you.
All right, so each year that an M series iPad Pro has been released, I look at it and I think, this is super cool. I would like that. And yet I still have my A12X. What is it? The third gen. It has a USB port on it and all that. It was the first one that used Apple Pencil 2. Mm-hmm. I'm still rocking that every day. And it still is capable of far more than it is actually allowed to do. Mm-hmm. That said, this is the first year where I've been like, okay, now I actually want to start pricing stuff out and see what I will potentially be spending, because this is so powerful. It does so much. And the new Apple Pencil adds in features that to me will be useful. I can't do those on my current iPad Pro. The new keyboard, that fits very well with how I would want to use the keyboard. We also got the teaser, which I fear is going to be Lucy pulling the football out of the way at WWDC. The teaser being, look at this new keyboard. And Ben, you'll have to help me out with a quote. The gist is, it makes it feel like you're using a Mac.
Yes.
That's mean.
Right. And I saw that and I'm like, and there's an escape key on the keyboard. Am I going to have a way to run those apps that are on my Mac that would be great to be able to run just when I need to on an iPad when I'm out and about? I don't need to have Mac OS running on the thing, but maybe this is the year that we get the hybrid part where it goes both ways with apps instead of just iPad to Mac. I don't know, but when I look at the features that Apple put into this thing, holy forking shirt balls. This is an amazing device. And I don't see any other company coming close to what Apple is doing with the hardware. Now they need to take off the training wheels and let this thing run.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be saving the Mac from the iPad. It's a parallel development, not a stage.
Ding, ding.
Yep.
They should be different. They've always been different. But hobbled and different don't have to be the same. That's that's what it comes down to.
It's screen. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And that the higher speed USB and
yeah. I mean, if I could run
thinner. No, actually, for a device like this, thinner and lighter is important.
I mean, anyhow, I can tell you this: if it ran Mac or if it ran Mac apps, my MacBook Pro would be on the market tomorrow.
Oh, I totally get it. Yeah. I could see if this thing ran Mac apps, having the new iPad Pro, and if I really needed a desktop, actually I would because of the podcasting stuff. just pick up a Mac Mini, even a used Mac Mini. Throw that on the desk for podcasting, and then use the iPad Pro for everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's go on. We're going to hit some of the little more the granular features of the iPad Pro in just a minute, but I want to touch a little bit on the M4, the next generation M4 chip. Boy, is it got some improved performance. It's just crazy. 120 gigs of unified memory bandwidth. You have dynamic caching. You have up to 10 core. You have a 10 core CPU and a 10 core GPU. But it's 50% faster than the M2. So go M2, M4. I guess that's 50%. With that makes some good math there. 28 billion transistors, and of course they have the 3 nanometer technology. So that's the second generation of this M4 chip. So, boy, it's just an incredible chip. And then it was surprising Apple that Apple released this in the iPad. I mean, we've always expected this chip to be in a Mac, and I think we're all here. We're very pleasantly surprised to see that they're really putting some attention to the iPad. This is 2 years in the making, almost 3. I mean, that they had then since they had released a new iPad here. So, Ben, I'm going to start with you again because you've got always some good thoughts on the M4 chip. What do you think? What was Apple's thinking with this?
Looking back at it and listening to some people like Snazzy Labs and Max Tech, the M3 generation was very much an interim chip on an interim process. The M4 is the real step forward. Seeing those leaked benchmarks, you're looking at about a 20 to 25% increase in speed over the previous generation, which is kind of nuts. It also does that while running a little bit cooler, which you didn't really see that efficiency gains in the M3 generation. So when this thing scales down to the next iPhone and scales up to the bigger Macs, yeah, this is going to be a very good next 18 months for Apple.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So, and it's definitely been interesting. Jeff, you have any thoughts on the M5 and the M4 processor?
I do, and I'm probably going in a different direction than everyone else has been expecting. But Intel, are you freaking out? Because you should.
You should be.
Yeah.
Apple's pace with new chip releases, like serious
staggering
power chips. Oh my God. Intel cannot compete with Apple, and Apple is not a chip maker. Intel is.
Yeah, but who is a chip maker and has people who came from Apple? Qualcomm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Kelly? What was your thoughts, first impressions on when they announced the M4?
Mostly just not disbelief, but just sort of impressed. Like, this isn't necessarily the realm where I live. Like, when I used to talk to people about this, I would get Ben to come tell me about it, or I would get John Martellero to come tell me about it. Hi, John. Because there are people who live and breathe that piece of it. But just watching the slide go by and seeing the things that they break down and what kind of evolution they've gotten into, I mostly just find it mind-boggling after seeing other chip makers and the other processors, AMD and Intel and ARM evolution and stuff over time, and watching Apple just kind of blow all those sorts of things away. Like, if there was Moore's Law for Apple Silicon, like, it would not be 18 months. It'd be like, 12 maybe. Like, it's unbelievable to me, and that they keep doing it, and that they keep finding the really creative ways. Like, I think it was the M1 Max, I think it was, where they were like, yeah, when we built it was the Ultra, because the Ultra is basically 2 Max chips together because they designed them to like stack up like Lego or something. Like, it was unbelievable. It's that kind of stuff that always makes me excited to see what Apple's going to come out with, like with the terraced battery when the MacBook Air is kind of that teardrop shape where it's thinner at the front edge than it is at the back. So Apple made this stair-stepped terraced battery that started thicker and then kind of notched down in order to make the best use of the space so that they could make it skinnier at the front than it was at the back. And those kinds of things are always just unbelievable to me. And I'm always excited to see what kind of creative hardware solutions they come up with. I just wish that those guys talked to the software team more and that the software team could do creative stuff like that too and unleash the hardware that they're given by doing something fun with the software side. So I continue to hold out hope, but
yeah. So let me go through some of the things that really we didn't hear announcements on, but found out after the fact. We just talked about the 10th gen iPad. That's now going to be priced at $349. That's $100 off what the original price was. Honestly, I thought $449 was a little overpriced for that iPad. And the iPad 9, the last of the Lightning connector devices with Apple, is now discontinued. So that's gone. They are adding a $100 nano texture glass option we talked about earlier. And boy, I've seen some demos. I just notably showed how incredible the glare is reduced with the nano texture glass option. That only comes with the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte models. So you have that as an option. The iPad Pro in itself, you have to get at least 1 terabyte or plus of storage, so 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte. That gives you 16 gigabytes of RAM. All the other models below that are going to only be 8 gigs of RAM. Is that going to be? You guys think that's going to be much of a difference in performance? I mean, I understand why they're doing that because it's probably aimed more towards the pros, having with the large capacity SSDs in there. So I don't foresee that a huge deal. But what are your thoughts, Jeff?
Apple is so good with memory management at the hardware and operating system level. This is not a thing for most people. That small minority that really needs that extra RAM for doing like really high-end video stuff you would otherwise be doing on your Mac. Okay, sure. Yeah. That extra RAM is going to be nice for I'd say 95% of iPad buyers. Doesn't matter. I mean, most people are rocking iPads that have like 4 gigs of RAM, and it's not a problem.
Yeah. I think part of it for me is you need more memory if you are going to be doing something big, something with maybe a file that is like an image file that's a lot of layers, or a great big video that you're trying to edit. And in that case, you're probably hooked up to an external SSD somehow or another, because all you need is USB-C for that. And lots of drives come in USB-C. So if you've got a great big drive full of video capture from the day, or lots of images, and you're trying to edit something that's hundreds of megabytes, maybe it's gigabytes in size, then you need that additional memory to be able to manage doing everything you want to do with that file on a mobile device. But, again, that's like a percentage of people, and making that happen. Those are the people that are putting the hooking up a hard drive, hooking up the big screen, the kind of stuff that we see briefly in some of the product intro videos when they debut things like this. Yeah. So I think those folks are going to be the people who need it, are going to be very grateful to have it, but I don't think most people are going to notice at all. Like Jeff said, like it's not a thing that they've done for people, capital P people. That's not who it's for.
Yeah. A couple more things. If you were to max out an iPad Pro with all the options, it would cost you over $3,000. Yikes. But that's including an Apple Pencil Pro and the Magic Keyboard, and maxed out to 2 terabytes and a 13-inch. So yeah, you could really spend some serious money on this. Interestingly enough, the Pros lack the mmWave 5G chip, and also doesn't have the ultra-wide camera. I'm thinking maybe that is something that, you use your iPhone for a lot of photography. Why would they want to put an ultra-wide in there as well? I'm not sure of really that logic.
Apple knows how to use our devices, Dave. Like they know exactly.
We're going like this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they know. I'm assuming since that camera's gone, they know people really aren't using that camera.
Right. So why add the extra expense?
Yeah.
Why add the extra expense? So a lot of folks there were a lot of influencers that were looking at the M4 iPad Pro, and they saw how incredibly thin it was. think it's like 5.1 millimeters in size. And I think on the event, they compared it to an iPod Nano as far as the thin size of it. And they say the iPad Pro actually weighs less than the iPad Air. So weight in itself is going to be pretty incredible. And it's definitely kind of exciting thing to look at here. The batteries still have about 10 hours of battery life. They're going to have, like I said, they're going to have a folio cases as well as the Magic Keyboard. And the cellular option now for the Air and the Pro are only going to be eSIM going forward. So I'm glad to see that because that'll save some space in the device, not having to take up for a SIM card. And we did talk about the Magic Keyboard. The Magic Keyboard is redesigned, and it now has function keys at the top, which is great. So it's going to be interesting. So, but I saved the best part for then this because this is really something Jeff's in his heart here as far as the Apple Pencil Pro goes. And really, what they did was they did some amazing things that they released with this Apple Pencil Pro, including the squeeze gesture, haptic feedback, and the Find My feature. Finally, that's available, so people are trying to find real pencils all the time is amazing. So I'm going to throw it right to you, Jeff, and you tell me your first impressions of the Apple Pencil Pro. Is this something you're excited about?
This is one of the key selling points for the new iPad for me. Simple as that.
We know why. It's the barrel roll.
The barrel roll.
Yeah.
I heard that and I couldn't do anything but giggle for a while after that.
And everyone had the image in their head. Barrel roll. And kids, if you don't get the joke, just do a Google search.
Knowyourmeme.com.
There you go. Okay, so I feel like Apple really is leaning in to trying to push the iPad Pro as an alternative to buying a Wacom Cintiq. And the problem is they're not actually leaning hardcore into that. They're being kind of subtle about it, which they shouldn't be in this case. I think for a lot of people, this is a totally viable option to getting a Cintiq, which is a high-end tablet, and you're going to spend the same amount of money. But with the iPad, you'll be able to run all the applications, and you'll be able to run them when you're not at your desk. With the Cintiq, yes, there's certain models where you can do editing with just the tablet away from a computer, but there are limitations there. With an iPad, you have the app there, you don't have a limitation. And with this new Apple Pencil, I think it addresses a lot of the needs of professional users. The one thing that they didn't do that I wished they had done, give us physical alternate tips for the Apple Pencil.
I knew you were hoping for that.
All right, I will cede the podium to hear everyone else's thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead, Dubhead.
I will agree with Jeff because Jeff is the artist.
Okay.
Man, no pressure on me.
How about you, Kelly? I thought you were done. Sorry.
I was going to say, I'm the guy that the USB-C Apple Pencil is for.
And for me, I'm like, why would I ever want that thing? I mean, for you, you're going to use it to write and tap and stuff. It's perfect for that. For me, it's like, why would I spend $79 on something that doesn't even do what I need?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true.
I think the pencil's a nice evolution. I'm glad to see that they're continuing to. Now, do I think you should have been able to use Find My on your pencil years ago? Absolutely. But, the best time to have done it was the previous iteration of the Apple Pencil, and the second best time is right now. So now we finally got it, and I'm glad. I still kind of wish it had maybe 2 flat sides, so maybe it would be less prone to roll, and then people wouldn't have to make a noise quite as often. But, baby steps, right? So I liked seeing the evolution, but what I really want to see is the evolution of what they've announced. I want to hear about Pencil Kit at WWDC so that people who are developing apps can do something with some of the capability that's built into the pencil. and you can use it for you can program it to do certain things in particular applications. You can do some of that with programming the double tap on the flat side now in certain applications on your iPad. And because I use one, I don't really draw is a strong word for what I do in Linnea Sketch, but it has happened. I do use Linnea Sketch and I love it. But I do a lot of writing. I have a digital planner PDF that I use with GoodNotes, and I scribble on that all the time. And in writing and being able to program the double tap to do something different sometimes depending what I'm working on makes that really helpful. So I'm hoping that some of the additional capability that's built into the pencil is stuff that will be available so that people can do other things with it. And I would really like to see what kind of accessibility options come with the new things that it can do, with gyroscopic. Like if you're going to twist it, maybe there's a way that you can have an accessibility action tied to that or something, and just make some of this stuff available to more people so they can use it and enjoy it and get the most out of it that they can.
Yeah. Now, what's great about the Apple Pencil Pro is it also is compatible with the iPad Air with the M2. So you still can get the best of both worlds with the Apple Pencil Pro. I mean, was there any limitations of what the Air does they're both the same, right? To you, as far as what the pencil capabilities?
Yeah, there's no difference in the capabilities.
That's great.
Yeah. One thing that I would love is to see the super detailed specs on this Apple Pencil. And that's because when you're using tools like this professionally, drawing, painting, the sensitivity, pressure sensitivity of the pencil actually really matters. And I would love to see how this is truly comparing to the styluses that you use with the Wacom Cintiq, which I think is the fair comparison for graphic tablets in this case.
Yeah. So it's a great new pencil. I'm excited. I'm still haven't pulled the trigger yet. What I'm going to do, I'm on an M1 iPad Pro. So like Kelly, and I'm been tempted to look at the 13-inch screen just because it's just so lightweight, and because that was always the big thing. And it looks. I want to see. Well, I probably should see it in person, just get a good idea. I mean, because I've always had an 11-inch. I think I've only purchased like one 12.9. I think it was like the first gen. So when I purchased years ago, and that thing that was big.
How do you even function with an 11-inch iPad Pro?
Yeah, it's okay for me.
Beautifully,
I'm giving you a hard
every
time over
day.
because I love you.
And then I inherited this 2018 12.9 inch, and I started seeing that it's pretty hard not to have the larger screen anymore. So this might put me over the edge here. So, but I'm we're getting good trade-in values for the old iPads. I mean, they're offering $385 for the M1 iPad Pro, so which is not bad considering with the trade-in values of the older models. So I'm very tempted, and I'm probably going to pull the trigger because it's been 3 years. Yeah, it's been 3 years since I bought one. So
I have one totally specced out and
in the cart.
Yeah, it's sitting in the cart.
Yeah. So
only one thing I say to that.
Yeah, you keep taunting me with that card, and it never
does he have the card
shows
out?
up.
Yeah, it never shows up. Got that special card in that wallet is. So yeah, it's some exciting times. I was going to touch a little bit on the software releases with Final Cut Pro. They released a brand new version for the new iPads. It's introducing specific capabilities just for the M4 iPad Pro. You have a live multicam feature that allows you to capture up to 4 different angles on a single scene using connected iPhones and iPads. The way you make this feature work is Apple has created a Final Cut camera app that captures the video from each device and then feeds it right into Final Cut Pro. That's pretty amazing. I mean, when you say you're filming this on an iPad and an iPhone, you really are. And then, the event was, they always say that at the end of the event, said that everything was filmed on an iPhone and an iPad and a Mac. So they did all the work without having to have professional high-end cameras to recording things. So, and it showed because these are very, very capable devices. So that I thought was pretty impressive, and it's still part of the same. You have the subscription with it for $49 a year or $4.99 a month for that. It'll be an update once the iPad Pro comes out, the new model, and then also they came out with a new version of Logic Pro with some AI features that were added. So it now has an AI based studio assistant to help artists make music, and it was pretty slick the way I'm almost tempted to want to try it because it's the same thing. You can pay for it. I thought they did offer that as a. I guess you do have to buy it right out for $200. So I thought they had Logic Pro as a subscription. I guess not, but interesting to see some of the features on both of those pieces of software. I fully expect and that Jeff's favorite app, LumaFusion, is already on the drawing board right now, coming up with some new features that's going to take advantage of what the new iPad Pro M4 can do. I would not be at all surprised, would you, Jeff?
I'm certain they're already working on this, but they already have Filmic support. So,
Well,
I mean, you already have multicam support in LumaFusion.
Yeah. So go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, Filmic was sunsetted by its new owners.
Yeah, it's sunsetted.
Okay. Well, I hadn't realized that, but since LumaFusion has its own multicam support,
yep,
that didn't impact me. But that's unfortunate because that was such a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, that I think in a nutshell, we did a pretty good coverage of the event itself. Normal events, we would never be able to fit this in one show because there's usually so much to talk about. But yeah, I think overall, I'm very excited about these new iPads. I think I'm going to have one in my future, and I want to jump on that bandwagon. And I think it's going to be the Pro. I thought possibly the Air, but no, I've had a Pro. Why not stay with a Pro? So.
Well,
Jeff,
also,
you've already said you've got it in the cart. Go ahead.
Yes, I do have mine in the cart. Here's the thing both of us need to keep in mind. It's not just about what do we want. It's what will we actually use, but then how long will we use the device? Yeah. And considering that my iPad Pro 3 is still going solid, and when I replace it, I'll probably give it to a family member who needs an iPad, and they'll have something that's more powerful than they need. So get what you're going to use long term.
Yeah, for sure.
Go with the Pro.
Are you tempted, Kelly?
I wasn't until you told me that I could get, almost $400 for an M1 iPad Pro, and now I kind of am. Not because of the pencil, I don't need any of the extra accessories. I'm still rocking my OG Magic keyboard that takes like 2 AA batteries, and I've used that with literally every iPad I've ever owned. The batteries last forever. I don't have to carry it around with me if I don't want to, and I can type maximum speed and everything's fine. So like I'm not in the market for most of the other stuff. I will probably never do a barrel roll, sadly. At least
Kelly,
not with my
do
pencil.
A barrel roll.
Not with my pencil anyway. But I'm excited to see where it goes, and I will ask me again in a month, and then I will my answer might change, because for right now,
I'll hold you that.
This is neat, but it's sort of a jingle your keys in front of somebody to distract them from a thing. So like it's new and shiny, and that has a certain amount of appeal. But until I know for sure what it's going to be able to do, I'm not super excited about it yet. I'm glad to see the iteration on the Apple Silicon. I'm like, I love seeing the engineering piece of it, but I haven't found a compelling case to upgrade my iPad yet.
Yeah. Before we move on to, we have a few news stories we have some time for. I want to hit the chat room here at youtube.com/intouched So glad everybody's here tonight and during the live streaming. Brian F., he says he loves his Air, and it's a great middle ground device. I would agree with that. And Cletus says he had both, but he's loving the Pro though. And Cletus is right. It's a third of the cost of the Vision Pro. Yes, that is for sure. And Brian says it's so much power than he needs. I don't even use the power that's of any near the power with the M1 iPad Air he has now. So he's definitely, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, we'll obviously hear a lot more at WWDC, so that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And Brian again says if more on device AI takes place, these more powerful iPads are probably going to be even more welcomed, I think, which I would definitely agree with that because AI is coming. It's already here, and just have to find out what Apple does, especially when iPadOS 18 comes, and I want to hear it from WWDC. So, and then the guy came into the chat here. He says he's very meh about the iPads. You're always like that guy. And he's got his M1 iPad Pro, and he's working fine. And that's I said, most people are happy with that. And then and some would like to upgrade, like some of us here. So great to have everybody here tonight. So glad you're in the chat, and we're just having a lot of fun here. So before we wrap up, let's hit some of the news stories I found this week. Apple has now unveiled a 2024 version of the Pride Apple Watch band and the Apple Face as well. It's a new Pride edition braided solo loop with the watch band, watch face, and wallpaper. The band features a fluorescent design inspired by multiple Pride flags and laser etched lug that reads Pride 2024 for the Black, Hispanic, and Latin communities, as well as those impacted by HIV and AIDS. And so it's got a good representation for this, and this is always great. Every year we bought the band last year. I might even buy this band this year. You think you can buy this, Jeff?
Wait, do we actually? Crap! How did I miss seeing that? Hold on, let me look at it real fast. Let me look at it. Okay, that's really
today.
Cool.
Or it was Monday.
Yeah,
it was Monday.
Okay, that looks very cool. I'm very tempted. But I tell you what, it's hard to beat the sprinkles.
You start sporting it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still have one. I have been wearing it. I switched to my braided loop again. I realize how much I love this band. It's all one piece. So yeah, check it out. It's good to support that and have a really nice band to boot as well. So
mine's 2022.
I
have the black Sport Loop Pride band from 2022, and I love it. So I haven't tried any of the solo loop yet, but that one looks really tempting because 80s kid Kelly is a sucker for a neon thing. So
that's right.
Odds are good I'll get one.
And another story about Apple Watch. Apple plans to have an Apple Watch activity challenge for the World Meditation Day on May 21st, just a few weeks before as we're recording. Apple's next Apple Watch event, it'll launch on May 21st. It'll celebrate that. To complete the challenge, Apple Watch owners will need to record 5 or more mindful minutes using the Mindfulness app or any app that adds mindful minutes to the Health app. Apple Watch owners will earn the Meditation Day Award with unlock a dedicated badge in the Fitness app. Plus, they will get a series of animated stickers that you can use in Messages and FaceTime apps. Well, look at that. So you can do some meditation. And Apple is going to help you along with it with always some fun little things here. So that's awesome. Apple is now going to be going to power AI features with M2 Ultra servers. Apple plans to power some of its upcoming iOS 18 features with data centers that use those servers with Apple silicon chips. This was reported by Mark Gurman and Bloomberg. The M2 Ultra chips will be behind some more of the advanced AI tasks that are planned for the year and beyond. Apple reportedly accelerated its server building plans in response to the popularity of ChatGPT and other AI products, and future servers could be using the next gen M4 chips. So this is a good thing. Again, it's rumor, I know, but I have a pretty solid trust of Mark Gurman and Bloomberg. Mm-hmm. He does have some. He gets them right on. He did get a lot of the things right on. He got right on he predicted the M4 chip. So and everybody else was doubting it.
Let's
Mark is
very predicting anything. I'm sorry, Ben. I was talking over you.
Yeah, he's not predicting. He's getting actual fact.
Apple's telling him what. He's not their parrot, but they're feeding him the information that they want released. They're totally controlling the message here.
Yeah.
Sorry about talking over you, Ben.
Yeah. No, not at all. Did you have a thought, Ben?
My thoughts were pretty much Jeff's thoughts. We're like a hive mind on this.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not really a rumor guy anymore. I feel like he's more of a planned release valve than anything at this point. Yeah. Which is fine, but like it's not like he's necessarily breaking any of that news. It's more like somebody's like, yeah, that thing, go ahead and hit publish on it now. Okay, bye.
Yeah. This was interesting. Apple apologizes for the controversial iPad Pro ad and scraps plan for a TV campaign. Alongside the new ultra-thin iPad Pro this week, Apple did debut a Crush ad, which they did show during the event, to promote the new hardware. And the ad has been subject to much criticism over the last 2 days. This was reported earlier this week. Actually, that's actually today, as we record. Apple has now responded with the criticism by issuing a public apology. To Ad Age says it missed the mark with this video. The Crush ad just depicted a crushing of musical instruments, paints, camera lenses, books, movies, characters, and sculptures, and more. You know, the idea was that creative work can be accomplished with an iPad. So I guess I'm not understanding why this is so controversial. Have you guys read through this or know why they think that it is? It's because we're crushing something?
Been
I don't know.
My eyes so hard about people freaking out over this. I'm surprised my retinas haven't detached. Seriously, if this is what people are keying in on to complain about for Apple, holy forking shirt balls. Yeah. Just get over it.
I thought it was a cool video, actually, and I made sure I went and downloaded it because it's probably going to get removed from the Apple's YouTube channel. I want to.
I mean,
that makes sense.
I don't get it, mostly because I'm like, you posted it on the internet. Of course, somebody was going to get mad.
Yeah.
Period. Like, this is the equation: who they are, how many there are, and what specifically it is that is twerking them off is immaterial. It's gonna happen. This is how it works with the internet. And so I just was very confused by like, oh, we're sorry. Like, I never saw any of the criticism that looked to me like it was a valid thing. It's not like they put a person in there. It wasn't a puppy, whatever. Like, there's nothing, I couldn't find anything about that ad. Like, I think there's a whole YouTube channel at least one dedicated to, we put stuff under a machine exactly like this and smushed it to see what would happen. Like, I've seen, I've seen the video with like gummy bears and, all kinds of crazy stuff. And like, I don't know why nobody's mad about that. Like, I thought it was a clever ad. I mean, it wasn't as clever as the one full of Mandalorians, but that doesn't mean it's not a good ad. And I'm not biased at all.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, honestly, the ad did not do anything for me either way. I thought it was kind of meh, but honestly, I don't get all the outrage. I mean, it wasn't Apple's best ad by any means. It wasn't the worst, and perfectly honest, we'd probably all forget about it. I'll forget about it in about 5 weeks.
Hey, in the chat, which I can't actually get into because whatever, YouTube, a guy is saying, "Hey, no eye jokes, Jeff. Sorry, guy. I didn't see it as a problem. I will look closer."
Gosh. Okay. So, and then the last story here is Apple's making it easier for you to develop your very first app using what's called Pathways. Apple's developer site has long been a massive hub of resources for prospective app developers, but previously there was never a clean path towards getting started. Today, the company, Apple, announced Pathways, a collection of videos, documentation, and other resources that'll walk you step by step through the journey of developing your very first app. It's accessible on Apple's developers website. All kinds of resources there will require you to just have a developer account to do this, and it's so cheap. It's $99 a year, and it gets you access to all the betas. So it's not a bad deal. So, and you can go through and you get started as a developer. You do design, you do Swift UI, games, and Vision Pro, and then you can distribute onto the App Store. This is really cool that Apple is doing this and making it even easier to get. They want to get more app developers. It's obviously the goal here, and why not make it easy for people if someone might be interested in doing that. I might check this out because I'm not much of a developer, but even though I play one on TV. It's, but it is cool. So, do you have a thought, Kelly?
No, I'm giggling at Guy in the YouTube chat. So that's all.
Well, now that you brought it up, it's not something that's not inappropriate. But
It's of course
It
it's
depends on
inappropriate.
yours.
I mean, it's Guy. Like, where
Yeah.
were you? Yeah.
yeah. Well, we love you guys.
I think it's interesting.
go
I
ahead.
like the idea that they're trying to reel in more developers. I'm curious how this is actually going to be, how this is going to work. I haven't seen a lot of it yet. I haven't seen anybody walk through that process, so I can see kind of what's in there. As people know, I have a long and storied history with encourage people to be developers who maybe hadn't considered it previously. So I'm always more interested than most in programs like this and how they're going to work. So I'm looking forward to finding out more.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely something that I'm really looking forward to. And what I'm actually really looking forward to is MacStock. MacStock 8 is here. It's going to be July 12th through the 14th. MacStock Conference and Expo. You can come join myself as well as Jeff Gamet and Chuck Joyner and Brian Flanagan-Arthurs, Jill McKinley, Marty Gencius. We got all kinds of great speakers, and it's got 3 full days. The first day is a new thing called workshops. You're going to be able to really level up your MacStock experience. That's the theme this year, level up. And you can come and actually do a day worth of workshops on Friday. And then we have the weekend of talks that we've had and you've known and loved with MacStock. It also includes a MacStock Film Festival that's led up by Wally, and there's so much more planned. And we have a great new venue this year. It's the Holiday Inn Convention Center out in Crystal Lake, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, near Woodstock and near the old college where we used to have the event. So it's so awesome. A lot of great speakers, and I really want you to come out. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we have such a fun time networking. We have such a fun time seeing our friends, and you can meet new friends, and
sing
I
karaoke
can't say
with them.
much more about that. And then karaoke with Kelly, and I'm hoping Kelly's going to be there. I think she is. I don't know, or is she going to be maybe part of the time?
Did you look at the chat?
But you're going. You are going like full tilt going.
I'm gonna be there.
Oh my
I'm gonna
God!
be there.
All right, so you're going to get to see Kelly
Start-
Guimont, the one and only.
Start your light calisthenics now. You're gonna have to emotionally prepare.
We are going to have just an absolute
Oh my
blast.
God,
so
Becky.
it's just I'm so
I'm
so
already,
excited.
thinking about
It's-
starting a Kickstarter for my bail money.
That's right. Oh my gosh. So it's so reasonably priced. Come on, see us. And you have 2 options. If you want to just go for the 2-day speaker event, that's the weekend pass. It's $299. And if you want the weekend pass plus the workshops, it's just $100 more, $399. But I have a great deal for you. As an In Touch with iOS viewer and listener, you can score $30 off if you want by using a coupon code. The coupon code is In Touch with iOS, all one word. It's in our show notes. It'll show at the checkout. You put that in, and you're going to get $30 off, whether you decide to go with the 3-day weekend pass or with the workshops or the 2-day weekend pass itself. And this code's going to go until just before the event starts around July 11th. So absolute reason to come out, save a few dollars and come register. MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. That's where to go to check us out. You're going to get to see Kelly. I'm so excited. This was all new news for me, so I'm kind of giddy about that. So I'm so glad you're going to be there. And now we just got to get Ben to come.
Oh, it's happening. I've
should
waved my Jedi hand at him and everything.
Yes, it
Yeah.
should happen. Yes, except
This
Kelly.
is the conference you're looking for.
Yes.
This is the conference you need to be at.
Yeah.
We're going to come pick you up if you don't come.
Oh, really? Also, your Jedi mind tricks only work on the weak willed.
That's right. So come on, see us. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we would really appreciate it. And come check it out, max.conferenceexpo.com. So with that, and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow me on Mastodon, or the show on Mastodon, which is at intouchwithios at techhangouts.social. support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You also can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you are notified when we are live streaming, which is Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific at our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I just want to thank again Brian and Guy and Cletus and any others that were out there joining us live. You can come here anytime to hang out with us. We always have a lot of fun. You also can go to our magazine on Flipboard, where many of the current past, where all the items that we talk about are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show by going to your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Cast, Overcast, Apple Podcasts with transcripts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website, which is intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there on the website. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65. And Kelly Guimont, I am so thrilled you were here this week. Where can people find you?
Well, in July, you can find me in Illinois.
Yay.
Right before that, you can find me in Pennsylvania. Because I will also be speaking at the Penn State Mac Admins Conference. So, I have a lot of presenting in my future. Generally, you can find me playing Pokemon Go, and the rest of the time when I'm not here hassling you or sitting in the back and doing my best to make Chuck Joyner lose focus on Tuesday nights on Mac Voices Live, you can find me over on Mastodon, where I am verso at mastodon.social. You can also occasionally find me when Mike and I can manage to coordinate the same time, because time zones are stupid. You can find me on aftershowpodcast.com with Mike Rose, brought to you by weatheralibi.com. If you ever need the weather for your alibi, weatheralibi.com. Actually a sponsor, because we built that website and so that it could be our sponsor. It's a real thing. And the rest of the time you can, as often as David sends me a text and wants to know what I'm doing on Thursday nights, you can find me here.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And Ben Roethig, thank you so much for being here. And where can people find you?
Well, Dave, first of all, you can find me trying to get cats off of my Mac.
Is that a euphemism?
Which I have been doing the entire show.
Now.
Yep. You can also find me at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. On Tuesdays, you can find me on Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner. And Friday, you can find... my brain does not want to work. Thursday, you can find me here on In Touch with iOS. And for a very limited amount of time, you can still find me on the British Tech Network on the Mac Show.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet, always a pleasure having you here. Where can people find you?
Always a treat to get to be here with you, Dave. So thank you for being so tolerant and letting me join in over and over. All right. So on social media, I'm Jay Gamet, pretty much everywhere. I'm active right now on Mastodon, Instagram, and Threads. And then for shows, Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live, here with you on Thursdays for In Touch with iOS. Then on the British Tech Network, Thursdays for the big show, Fridays for the Mac show. And also Brian Chaffin and I. Wow, sometimes diction is hard. And Kelly. Anyhow, Brian Chaffin and I, we do the Context Machine. Well, it's been great being on the show until I got kicked off tonight.
Oh, no, you're fine. And, all right. So thank you for listening and watching and being here, and the folks in the YouTube chat being here as well. Thanks all the guests and hosts were here this week, and we had an absolute blast. And we're going to do it again next week. But until then, we'll talk again soon.